Today we're going to talk about 5 essential sampling techniques inside Ableton Live. So welcome to the new video. My name is Yannek Maunz and I'm happy to be back here on Production Music Live. Today I will only use my own Organica samples. So if we have a look inside our Ableton project, I just have a blank kick here. Perfect. So let's start with the first trick. First trick is called slice mode. So you kind of chop a loop into its ingredients. So let's dive into Ableton Live. We create a MIDI clip and now we'll have a look into our sample pack. So which material works best for this trick? It's mostly percussive material. Alright, so you have your MIDI clip and now we have this woody and crunchy loops here. Right, so a lot of transient material here. So we can take this. First, you enable the slice mode down here. Alright, so now Ableton chopped our signal into its ingredients, right? So now we can play back with our keys the different parts here. You can shorten those sounds as well by increasing the fade out here. This will make it more natural. And now you even can play polyphonic material when you enable the playback mode and change it from mono to poly. Now you can play around with the voices here as well. Okay, so let's hear our kick. And now let's create a clap layer with this material. So now you can take a loop which has kind of the same sounds and you can blend them together and create nice and interesting textural layers. You can even start making grooves here. Perfect, so let's get that MIDI back by hitting the square up here. Increase the loop size. This could be a nice dancehall rhythm, but I would like to go with our clap. So now we have a clap that's not the same all the time, but it's still made of the same ingredients. So there are a lot of things you can do with this. You can use different transient material and just play around with it. Alright, a little side information. You don't necessarily have to cut your material by transients. You can also choose to cut it by beats or regions. And now you can dial in different subdivisions right here. So this is a fun place to play around. Let's continue with the next trick. The next trick is called infinite loop. It's when you use a sampler inside Ableton Live to loop a signal seamlessly forever. So let's dive into Ableton, and tonal material works very well for this kind of use case. So let's create a MIDI clip by hitting Shift-Command-T and let's hear which kind of tonal material we've got inside the pack. So this one sounds quite cool. Now we've inserted our tonal sample. So let's right click on our simpler and choose simpler to sampler. Now you've seen the whole interface change. It's a little bit more complex now. So when we play a note now, it will just play back the sample. So now you need to have a look at the sustain modes here. So you want to choose the third sustain mode, which is like a back and forth sustain mode. So now there's a region that appeared here. You can drag this region to a point that you want to loop. So now if you play it back, will start here and it will loop this part. So if you want to make this a little bit more smoother, you can enable a crossfade. So now you can see there are crossfades. You can make the loop smaller. Or bigger. And you can even enable a release mode. So now the note suddenly stops when I release the key, which is very unnatural. We can enable the release mode right here by clicking one of those modes, doesn't really matter. And now we have to enable our release on our sampler. So we go into Filter and Global and increase the release time here. And now it's smoother. Right, so I'd say we're just going to record this one MIDI note here. let's duplicate the loop. Let's make it very long, because that's what we were trying to do. Perfect. Let's duplicate the channel because we have all the settings that we need. Delete the MIDI information. And now let's search for a bass sound. So there's this folder called Schatzkiste, and there's a bass that I really like. This one, very gritty. So we're just going to take this. And now let's have a listen. Let's make this louder. Now you see it's looping here. So you can even do like kind of rumbly things with this. Next trick is called Percussive Lead Loop, and it's kind of an unexpected groove generator. So let me show you what I mean by that. We will insert another MIDI clip. The sample we are looking for is something short and tonal. So we have a resonance in it, we have something tonal, and we have a transient. So let's go into our Schatzkiste again, and let's see what we've got there. This one. All right, so let's double click here, and now it's going to get very interesting because now we're going to enable the loop mode right here. So if I play back the sample, it will automatically loop it, right? I would recommend turning off the snap so you have a higher resolution. So now if you play back the sample and you drag this here just with your mouse, so I'm playing with my left hand, playing the note on my keyboard, and with the right hand I'm just dragging this end of the arrow here. You can do this cool, like, you know, LFO-ish sounds, but with a sample. All right, so this time I would also recommend you to create another resampling audio channel. Here we'll choose audio from for Organica One Shot, the channel we just created. Also hit record, so both have to be record enabled, so you can also receive the MIDI right here. And now we're just going to record a couple of, kind of random jams. The percussion is not tuned accordingly, so we just insert a tuner here. So we can see it's 50 cents too high, so we'll just go here, drag this down, and I will pitch it to the root note. So it's F. All right, now we can start recording. Something like this. So you can make really nice polyrhythmic material with this. Was a pretty good one. Let's have a listen to the audio we've recorded. And now we'll just loop a section. I think the last one was pretty good. So let's have a listen into our audio that we just recorded. Duplicate the loop length. I would suggest quantizing the notes. Now we can go to this little envelope window right here in our audio clip, and we can automate the gain so we don't have this last bit because it does not sound so good. Of course we can add FX now. So it's a little bit more flowy. All right, that's it for the third trick, and you can try this with all kind of tonal material, right? The next trick is called Transient Trick. This is a trick you may already know. It's a very common one, but it's so important that I didn't want to leave it out. We will shorten up our transients from our loops inside the Ableton with the beat mode. So let's have a look. So we've inserted a couple of different loops right here. And now if you click inside the audio loop, you have this drop-down menu here. It's called beats. So this has to be selected, right? And now what's very common, what a lot of people know already, is this transient mode right here. And you can change it if you click on the drop-down menu here to this one arrow. And now if you have a listen, let's just have a listen now. You know, it sounds good, but it's very long. So you can tighten up this sample by decreasing the number. So if you have a listening context, we could quantize this material a little bit. And And now it gets interesting. If you click on the transients here, you can even choose a subdivision by which it divides the loop and plays it back. And that's very interesting to create completely new rhythms out of percussive and groovy material. So let's just try a couple of those. So now we have like a quarter feel. Let's try this with another loop, a top loop this time. So that's the top loop, how I produced it. We go, change the beat mode again. Let's try eighth notes. Now emphasizing the head a lot. This is how you make loops your own. Let's continue with this transient shade loop to the next trick. The fifth trick is a groove trick, a shaker trick. So you want to have groovy shakers, but shakers are very hard to play very tightly, you know. So they can attract a lot of misleading attention inside your mix, right? And this trick makes your shakers feel super organic but very stable at the same time. So let's check it out. Basically you create a MIDI clip and now you're searching for shaker material that is a loop, so not one shots. You need a loop that's somewhat around your BPM that you're currently in. In my case, 122 BPM. So let's go into our shaker section and now we have a lot of different shakers right here. And now you just double click and insert this whole loop into your MIDI clip. Now you simply create a MIDI clip, play it back and position your MIDI note on your off-head position. So if we just listen to our shaker and our kick, you can hear it gets cut up very suddenly, so we have to enable the one-shot mode. And now what's interesting, you know, every time this line or our track hits the MIDI information, it will restart this loop here. And that's what we're searching for, right? So now we can switch through the loop and search for parts that are super groovy. So now you have something that's looping all the time, but it's also always something different. And now layer, layer, layer. So we'll duplicate this channel and use a different shaker loop here. And you can really hear, you know, when it's off. You hear the difference between one-shot and classic mode. Just one note, very robotic. Now it gets groovy. And this is how you can, you know, sum and stack up how much shaker loops you want. Now we can pan these loops. Pretty loud. My name was Yannek Maunz and thanks for listening and see you in the next time. Thanks, bye bye.